love of God. I have no idea what's going on right now. I guess we're just looking at Mercury retrograde. I don't know what else to say here. But technology is definitely giving me more of a run for my money than normally it even is. Okay, one moment. All right, we're going to see if we can make this work. I'm kind of having my doubts at the moment whether we can make this work. Okay, somebody's here. I had no internet connection. I reset my internet. Still couldn't get on here. So what's going on? Happy Friday night. Hello, James. I haven't seen you here for a while. I'm going to attempt, as always, with Friday night traffic, to make a live video here. I don't know what's going on with technology. It's not been a joy tonight, for sure. All right, let's see if we can fix this. Trying to use my computer, and it just sat there and spun forever, saying I was going live. But was I actually going live? The answer to that was definitely a no. Okay. I want to talk about this video is going to be about the date of September 23rd and whatever else comes out. So this was actually brought to my attention by someone else. I had never even heard about this September 23rd date until someone brought it to my attention a couple of days ago. Hello, David. Hello, James. And hello, Kathy. You can always count on David and Kathy every single time. So, yes. So this ominous date of September 3rd that everyone's been talking about. So I talked to a friend and they said that this date has been in predictive programming, which I've been talking about for the last couple weeks, a little bit here and there. So this date has been talked about in movies and all kinds of things for going back for a really long time. Of course, being the hermit that I am with outside information, I had actually heard nothing about this date whatsoever. Okay, so it was brought to my attention a couple of days ago. I did not then go out of my way or go bother looking anything up about this date. Instead, I do what I always do. I doused to answer some questions I had about this date or what was the point of this date, and used my internal resources and zero external resources. Okay, it's kind of dark in here. Let there be light. So first I want to, and I briefly got into this in the last video. The last video that I made was probably not a good idea on many levels, but for some reason I knew it was a catalyst event, and what that catalyst event was, I'm not sure. And it could have even been something that was just for me or for a small amount of you, because a small amount of you reached out to me about that video. I have a bug chasing after my face here, but what else is new? So I deleted that last video for a multitude of reasons. I wasn't sure, safety-wise, if it was even okay for me to make that video to begin with. And when I went back to rewatch it to see what the significance was and what information came out, I felt incredibly uncomfortable rewatching it. And that told me that I needed to get rid of it. So the people that are asking what happened to that last video, I simply got rid of it. I do want to talk to you very briefly about the important thing that I said at the beginning of that video, and that was a realization that anybody who is taking a copper supplement needs to take a binding agent, and anyone that's already taking copper supplements knows why. But if anyone is already taking copper or is thinking about taking copper, you need to take a binding agent with that, okay? And a binding agent would be either some sort of clay or activated charcoal, one of the two. And so how much you're going to want to take of clay or activated charcoal depends on the amount of copper that you're actually taking. Because some people are only taking 3 milligrams, some people are taking 6. I have doused for many people and used rhodesthesia to see how much copper you may actually need. So it's going to depend on how much copper you actually need, than how much of a binding agent you actually need. That's important. I've been flooded with questions, so I'm going to start by answering a couple of the questions. And people were reaching out to me about all the different forms of copper. There's liquid copper, and then obviously there's like the supplemental copper that's in a gel cap. Now, anything that's in a gel cap or tablet form, your body takes longer to assimilate and actually use that. So, like vitamin C or anything else, it just depends on, do you need it to be in your system right this second? So that's the only difference between liquid and taking the pill form. But anybody taking copper, I'll repeat the importance of that, needs to take some sort of binding agent, which would be clay or activated charcoal. Okay. The other question that I've got, because there are lots of different forms of copper, even in liquid or pill form. Okay. So there is chelated copper, which is what I take. There is colloidal copper, and there is ionic copper. And ionic copper and colloidal copper are a lot different of an animal, so to speak. And your body works in different ways to integrate and use those properties. You can choose for yourself what you think is best, obviously, but I will tell you that every person that I have tested has not tested for ionic or colloidal copper. Everyone is testing for chelated copper. So my suggestion is, like I said, every single person I tested needed the chelated version, which you can find on Amazon very cheaply. That's where I got mine. So I wanted to bring that up again because that was really important. And that's actually how I started. The last video was talking about that. Okay, so just to get that out there. Now, Venus has been in retrograde for many weeks, and it finally went direct a couple of days ago. And man, could you tell today. So me and my friend were out at the store in search of batteries and new headphones, because every once in a while I'm walking and I drop my headphones and I don't seem to notice when I turn my music off before I actually get home. So in the parking lot, we see this real friendly guy, and he's waving, and my friend's like, oh my God, that's my ex-boyfriend. That's my ex-boyfriend. It's apartment number 4 is ex-boyfriend. And I'm like, I don't think your ex-boyfriend was that tall, was he? Neither one of us have a great sight from a distance. But anyway, he came in, and then she said, oh, I'm sorry. We were acting kind of weird. I thought you were my ex-boyfriend for a minute. And he said, could I be so lucky to know people like you, or something like that. It was kind of funny. But so Jess gets hit on everywhere we go. That's a natural part of reality, right? Me, not so much. Okay. And pretty much almost never. But it was so funny today because we were talking about Venus going direct. And, so the guy from the store, I guess we had been gone from the store for like 10 minutes, was following us around, and then he waved to us again at the light, and then we got down to all the way down a couple blocks from there, and he pulled over, and I just knew, even though I didn't hear him, I just knew someone was behind us, and it actually made me a little bit nervous. And I stepped on the back of her shoe, and I was like, oh shit, I'm really sorry, but I think there's someone behind us. And I turned around, and it was the same guy from the store that we'd already seen, like circling the block a couple times. And so he stopped, and I guess I didn't fully understand what was going on. And I just kept on walking because I'm so used to people trying to pick up my neighbor that I just was like, kind of kept walking. And so my neighbor stops and starts talking to this guy. And he had pulled over and gotten out of the car. And he goes, I'm not trying to be creepy in any way whatsoever. I just wondered if I could get your phone number. And I kind of rolled my eyes because literally we cannot get to the gas station without someone trying to get her phone number, right? And he's like, no, I want your friend, the one in the dress. I'd like to have her phone number. And I waved and I said, no, no, thank you. And so then she stops and she's arguing with me on the street corner. Why not? And I'm like, you know, why not? So this guy is just standing there while we're having this argument about why I'm not going to give him my phone number. So Venus is no longer in retrograde, meaning everyone's like emotional, romantic, whatever is not no longer going backwards into the past, but going into the future. And I'm telling you, at every light, at every block, someone was asking for a phone number. So it's good for our money. It's good for our feelings of love and romance that Venus is out of retrograde. If you do a lot of walking, like us, you might get hit on at every block. That was what I noticed today. Everywhere we went, every single place we went. So we actually went out to eat today, which is not really that normal for the two of us. We go have coffee a lot, but we don't normally eat out for obvious reasons. And so today we went to this restaurant. We were the only two people out there. And you guys know I've been talking about these damn hornets just won't leave me alone. So the other day, I was walking down the street and I was literally walking really calm, kind of melodically, and all of a sudden I took off and I started running like hell. And these people were like, what is going on? Thinking I was crazy. When I was literally trying to outrun this ground hornet. So we go to lunch today and we're sitting there, and we were there and we were almost done eating when this hornet came up. And she started swatting at this hornet. And I'm like, you know, I have taught you better than to swat at a hornet because you know what happens. And she was like, listen, hornet, keep your pheromones to yourself and don't send the hive after me. Then there was two, then there was three, and I took my plate and I'm like, I'm going to finish my food at the end of this table over here because I'm tired of dealing with this guy. And then I guess the cook who made our food came out and started talking to us and asking us how the food was and all of that. And we started talking about the hornets and how the hornets were everywhere. And I said to this guy, I don't know if you know this, but they have a photographic memory. So let's say you try to take out the hornet's nest, right? As people do, they buy like wasp spray and they try to do all these crazy things and they try spraying down into the hole. And this is what I was telling him. Hornets have a literal photographic memory. So let's say you go outside, you're like, I'm going to handle this, ground hornet's nest on my own. And you do something that's not effective. Good luck, because when you step out of your house the next day, they are going to send the hive after you, right? So this date of September 3rd is all about the hive mentality and how we as a humanity manifest things in a very hive-like way, right? There's a lot of people feeling really good, for example, and you'll pick up on that. And I know you've heard people talk about this before. The collective consciousness. We're picking up on the collective consciousness. There's a bunch of happy people or a bunch of sad people or a bunch of people losing their house or a bunch of people going through a divorce. A bunch of people enjoy that it's summer, whatever it is. We're always picking up on the collective consciousness, right? So when we're talking about any kind of scary date that they've given us, whether it's through predictive programming of movies, or any way that they've put any kind of date out to us, the whole point is they are looking for a specific outcome. Now, this is where we have to get in our balanced masculine and feminine energy, right? Because there's a portion of this planet in the divine feminine energy that says I should give zero attention to anything that they're trying to create in the third dimension that's a distraction tactic, which is partially true, but it's not all the way true. So then we have the divine masculine sitting around and creating a certain scenarios. And as you know, we all have a mix of divine feminine and masculine energy. So September 23rd being a scary date, a portrayal of a scary date in physical reality, predictive programming through movies. And again, I still don't know what is being said about this, what's being discussed about this. I don't have any of that information because I didn't know anything about this until very recently, and I didn't bother to look it up. As I said, I tapped in the other way. I just heard about this last week, and I have looked at, seen, researched absolutely nothing. Okay, so I go in and I ask what this date is actually about. And the ground hornets just keep coming into play because of their photographic memory. Good morning, Terrell. Hello, Jessica. So that's where the hornets come into play, right? Is the photographic memory of the hive, which if they're in danger, they then send out a pheromone that tells the rest of the hive. And I believe there's a whole lot more to this than certainly than they're telling us, but maybe there's a whole lot more to this even than they know. Because what I saw today was not only does the ground hornet have a photographic memory, and I did a lot of research on the yellow jackets, on the ground hornets, after I had this experience of digging into their nest and finding them at every single job. It was like I literally couldn't escape the ground hornets, right? So I looked up in symbology what this meant, and the ground hornet means when it's time to close a chapter or close a door in your life and go in a new direction. That's the symbolism, right? But what I saw today was they use this photographic memory, like they see us swatting at them today at lunch, for example. They literally can send a photograph of us back to the hive, right? So let's say their hive is not outside because we were eating on the patio. Let's say the hive is not out on the patio, but it's like across the street or outside the fence line. Everybody in the hive then has that picture of what they look like. Now, the symbology and the meaning and all of the things coming to me about knowing when something's over, letting it go, and letting it go so that you can open a new doorway to a new chapter, a new cycle in your life, or a new cycle of expanded consciousness for humanity on this planet as a whole. Okay, so when I asked internally what this date is of the 23rd, and I knew it was close to the equinox, but I swear I thought that the equinoxes and solstices were always on the 22nd or 21st. Friday night in Northside. You gotta love it. You gotta pause for the emergency vehicles. This is a test and only a test. So when I asked internally, what is the theme? What is the point? Because it's really, really close to that equinox, which talks about equality and it talks about balance. And what I got was that September 23rd is about balance. So the theme of September 23rd is balance in creation, a time of trust and creation, a time of collaboration and creation, and a time of unification of humanity and creation. So you can see the importance of this, and all the predictive programming would be because they are wanting us to create whatever all these scenarios are. And this goes back to our divine feminine and masculine balance of how we look at things, because the divine feminine can very much get in this energy of this is, crap, and I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm not going to give it any attention, right? And the divine masculine can be jumping into, diving down into all this information, looking and searching and reading and keep going down the rabbit hole on what does September 23rd actually mean. But we have to have a balanced look at what this is telling us. Okay, so if September 23rd is about balance in creation, a time for trust in self creation, a trust in self creation, a trust in self collaboration, and a trust in the unification and co creation of humanity in a balanced equinox, equal parts, balanced masculine and feminine energy. If we are in, regardless of your gender, obviously, I think you guys know it makes no difference. If you're in the masculine energy, I'm just going to search and find out every possible thing so I know exactly what's going to happen on this date. That is not balanced. If you're in the divine feminine energy, sitting around saying, all I simply have to do is receive that everything is going to be okay, I don't need to give it any attention, that again is unbalanced and only partially true, because what you want to do as the divine feminine energy, if you are in this state of, okay, this is just predictive programming and I'm going to ignore it, that's too much in the divine feminine energy and disregarding what the masculine is bringing to us by sharing with us the knowledge of what they're predicting is going to happen on that date. So whatever they're predicting, and again, I'll tell you, I've looked at it, read nothing, looked into zero, so I don't know what they're predicting. What I'm telling you is this is the theme of balance and unification and self-trust, trust in the new direction, and trust in the unification and co-creation of humanity. That's the point of all of it. That's the point of the equinox. And September 23rd is the equinox. So it's going to be the strongest date when everything that I just said is coming to a culmination, right? So not being in the divine masculine energy and researching what this means all day, and not being in the divine feminine energy and saying, I'm going to disregard this. All right. So when we come together as the divine feminine masculine, collaborating with other people, but most specifically at this time, working with ourselves. Okay, I have done a little bit of research and I know that there's the predictive programming about the 23rd of September in certain movies. Now, Twitter, everybody's talking about it on Twitter, TikTok, everything. And I only know this from other people. And then I brought up to my neighbor that the video is going to be about this tonight, and she already said, yep, I've heard of it too. Now, we don't really have anything in common as far as what we look at, what we watch, or any of that, other than our musical taste. So you can see it's broad spanning everyone with this predictive programming. So the balanced way to look at this is I have looked at, heard about what this date is being portrayed as for humanity as a whole, right? The negative spin on what this is, and realizing, first of all, that whatever they're saying, it's the exact opposite, but then using that balanced masculine and feminine energy to say, why are they doing this on this date? Because like I said, it's a huge date, right? A time of self-trust, self-collaboration, unification, trust in humanity itself, in working together and being equals, equinox, and changing all of this. So, since the very beginning of time, royalty, and basically anyone else that could afford it, but mostly royalty, has been consulting with astronomers, astrologists, and tarot readings. Okay, this has been going on for thousands of years, if not millions of years. And why are they consulting with these, astrologists, card readers, psychics, mediums, right? They were consulting on when was the best time to get married, when's the best time to start a war, when's the best time to create a famine. Everything that the manipulators of planet Earth have ever done, have ever created, have ever tried to create, they use these very specific dates that mostly astrologists or psychics or card readers or somebody that uses tools of divination would be able to tell you about, right? So what's the importance, right? If royalty has always planned weddings or started wars or famines or any of these other things, or even built sacred temples on certain specific dates, then that tells you that there is significance. So let's use our balanced masculine and feminine energy and say, man, this date of the 23rd is extremely powerful. And what are they actually doing? Okay. What are they actually trying to create? Well, I'll go back and tell you why I believe the importance of the ground hornets has been coming to me for the past, I want to say it's been 8 or 9 weeks, okay? Even though when I looked it up, they will tell you they have a photographic memory. But what would be the good of that? The good of the photographic memory of these hornets or these wasps would only be if they could send pictures, images, messages back to the hive. Okay. And a lot of that they're doing for survival. But I'm comparing this because our human brain, we as humans, we as a humanity are also of a hive mind, right? Like, so if a certain amount of people are worrying about something, other people that don't even have that concern are going to pick up on it. And some of us are even going to create it, right? So when we have a hive mentality, whatever a large group of people are feeling, that's what we're tapping into. So as a psychic, you could walk into a room. I could walk into a room and say, this is good energy. This is bad energy. This is going on with this person. This person has things going on in their life, right? Because as a psychic, empathic, intuitive person, you're going to pick up on that. And it's no different with the collective consciousness, right? So everything on the planet, good, bad, neutral, and everywhere in between, is going to be running through the collective consciousness. So it's no different than me as a psychic walking into a restaurant and picking up on a man's energy than it would be for me to go into meditation or take a walk and pick up on the collective consciousness of humanity, like the bees. What is that bee seeing? What are those pictures that I'm conjuring up in my reality? Because we can take things out of the collective consciousness, we can add things to the collective consciousness, and this part I've known since 2018. When I would feel a certain heavy energy coming from the collective consciousness on certain dates, I would put on my favorite music and dance and literally drop that feeling, that emotion, that love for music, that love for dance, down into the collective consciousness on purpose, knowing that that other people would pick up on it. Like I said, it's no different from a psychic walking up into a room or into a restaurant and picking up energy from other people, right? So the collective consciousness is identical to you walking into a restaurant and picking up on a man's energy. But let's take it one step further and say the collective consciousness shares a hive mind exactly like these hornets do. Okay, so now let's look at this September 23rd in a whole new light. What are we doing on September 3rd? Because September 3rd is all about creation as a theme, the balance of our masculine, feminine energy in our body, in our relationship dynamics. As a planetary whole, we have to be balanced. We have to look at this date and say, why is this date in our face a million trillion times, right? And the reason that date is in your face a million trillion times is so that you take that, like the hive, like the hornets that are looking and taking pictures and sending it back to the hive. Everything they're putting out in movies, on Twitter, on TikTok. And I'm not saying, there are a lot of people that just want to spread information and warn people that do not have a negative agenda. What I'm telling you is if you don't look at this in your relationships, on the world stage, and within your own balanced divine masculine and feminine energy, what you're then doing is you are becoming the hornet. You are going to Twitter, taking a snapshot. You're going to Facebook, you're taking a picture. You're going to YouTube, you're taking a picture. You're in short reels, you're taking a picture. So everywhere you go in that divine masculine energy of research, you look at something on Twitter and you, even if you don't think you have a photographic memory, you, I've been saying this for a while, are the most advanced technology on this planet. So even if you don't think or don't remember or don't recognize that you, like the hornet, has a photographic memory, what I'm telling you is that you do. And if we have a date coming up, September 23rd, which is all about trusting in self, trusting in humanity, trusting in collaboration, and trusting in the unification of humanity and expanded consciousness on planet Earth, you're wandering around studying these things in that masculine energy, and your mind is taking pictures of all the things that you're reading through predictive programming. You're running around taking pictures of everything that you see on Twitter and Reels, on Facebook and YouTube. And what you are doing with that imagery is you are sending it back to the hive, just like those hornets are sending a picture of us having lunch back to the hive. Here's the two ladies that swatted at us, right? We as a humanity are doing the same thing. So I am not trying to discourage you from ever looking up or being in that masculine energy of taking action, looking into something and researching. But I'm saying the whole point of that is to recognize that there is a significant, massive importance to this September 23rd date. But the only way that that date is going to be scary is if we are projecting back to the hive of humanity that it's going to be scary. And this is why this is why movies, social media, and everything is absolutely inundated with this right now. And I believe, actually, Jessica, to answer your question, I believe it's at 250. Okay. So to dive into numerology on 250, because I believe it's in the middle of the night at 250 on the 23rd, 2 says use your intuition. Again, we go right back to balance, right? Binary, how we cooperate with other people. 2 specifically means pay attention to your what you feel in a balanced, what is your masculine, feminine energy telling you? What is your intuition telling you? What is the Akashic record? Whatever you're tapped into, your ancestors, your higher self, your guides. What is everyone telling you about this date? Because number 2 is telling you use your intuition. Number 5, okay, so number 2 is that high priestess. I'm an oracle. I pull in messages. I pull in information from my higher self, from my guides, from, those ancestors on the other side, from the Akashic record. The high priestess is the one that is the physical oracle on earth, pulling it in, right? And that physical oracle, that's you in the divine feminine energy, the high priestess, is the oracle that's pulling in all of this information, and it's saying, listen to your psychic ability, your intuition, and whatever your connection is on the other side of the veil. So that's 2. Number 5 is connected to the Hierophant. Okay, the Hierophant in tarot is about learning. It's about ancient wisdom, but it's about being connected to the other side. It's the masculine version of the high priestess. So we have 2, the high priestess. You are a physical oracle on earth, being asked to use your intuition. About what? About the masculine energy when it comes to being connected to the other side. So you wouldn't think that that is a divine counterpart connection. It's a balanced connection, right? 2 is the high priestess, the oracle. 5 is the masculine version of the high priestess, of the oracle, okay? But it's about anchoring that oracle into the 3rd dimension. Now in tarot, what do we have exactly in between that? We have the divine feminine, which is the empress, and the divine masculine, which is the emperor, which again is telling you about everything about this is screaming out, listen to your intuition, not what is coming through the 3rd dimensional hierarchy That's 5, the Hierophant. What is the hierarchy saying is going to happen? What is the hierarchy telling you what to do? What is organized religion telling you about this date? What is any of that stuff in the third dimension connected to the other side? Because I want you to remember, we have a tendency to think that those that have been in control and manipulation of the planet don't have higher knowledge. But I'm here to tell you, they have all of those ancient scripts. They have all of that artwork. They have everything that's been removed from the planet. And the only way we have access through that is through the higher self, through our, internal compass, our guidance system, those beings that are helping us as well. Pay attention to your intuition about what is happening in the third dimension. What you're being told is the truth, okay? Now, it's a 205. So what do we have in the middle of that? We have the reset, okay? And so a 0 between the feminine oracle and the divine masculine oracle that tells you this is what's happening in my intuition, this is what's happening in physical reality, is a 0 point, 0 phrase. Let's reset this. Let's start all over. Let's make this equinox. That is why they're trying so hard in this predictive programming. And yes, I'm sure they've been doing this for years. Again, I haven't looked it up. Maybe some of you know the answer to that. Maybe this has been going on for 20 years. But in this amped up visionary responsibility that we now have to ourselves, to the planet, and to each other, the ascension energy is so much different and so much stronger, and people are so much more turned on with all these downloads that there's never been a more important or more potent time for them to try to control the outcome. Now, if you watch me for a while, you know that I've talked about Project Looking Glass very briefly, not in the ramifications of what that actually means, but to tell you that it's a toy that they had that was taken away. Okay, so Project Looking Glass meant that they could go into a nexus of time, meaning a major branch of time, and say, if we do this, we're going to get this result. If we do this, we're going to get this result. If we're going to do this, we get this result. Okay, so they look at the nexus, which is my hand, and then all the things that they could do, and what outcome can they co-create with their little group. And by showing us images, how can they also pull us into the co-creation that they want and not the one that we want? Now, Project Looking Glass has been taken away from them at least 6 years, maybe almost 7 years now. They don't have the ability to look at my hand, and as the nexus of time and say, if we do this, this group of people is going to do this. So they cannot predict the outcome anymore. Okay, they don't have the tools to predict the outcome, and because they are, in a non-neutral state of negativity as far as their agenda, that means they can't tap in like you and I can and say, hey, what's the importance of this relationship in my life? Or what's the importance of, 20 million people on the planet quitting their job in 1 month? They don't, the only tool in which they had to calculate, predict, and steer humanity was Project Looking Glass, and they don't have it. So that means a couple things. First of all, what are they reduced to? They are reduced to going on to the most popular platforms on the planet, which is social media platforms, and giving you information, knowing that you're going to store that picture, those words, in your mind and send it back to the hive. And if they send it back, and if enough of us send it back to the hive, we will create it. They have no way to predict anymore with Project Looking Glass. We're going to throw this scenario out, and the likely outcome from this situation is going to be this, this, or this. This is what they've done for millions of years, you guys. I cannot tell you how important it is for you to realize, if you didn't already know, that Looking Glass technology, they don't have it. And since they are in the energy of service to self, they can't look at any situation and discern how their thing is going to affect them like you and I can actually do this. Okay, so Project Looking Glass is gone. So therefore, since they don't have any way to throw out scenarios and see what, and none of it's 100% accurate, right? It's not a complete and totally accurate science for them, even though they've been using it for millions of years. But they had a pretty good idea. If we create this, we will get obedience. If we create this, we will get unlawfulness, right? So they have a way of looking at really important, massive timelines or jumps in timelines. There are so many people saying there are all these different timelines. Oh, we're just changing timelines, or you're on a different timeline. I mean, no, we're all on the same timeline, but we're not all in the same space. So within groups of us, we're in certain spots on a timeline together. Okay. And one of the ways that this will be true is you'll say, somebody put out an Archangel Michael message, okay, that I received 5 years ago. And, 6 weeks from now, somebody else is going to put out that same message. I was actually dating a guy that kept insisting that people were stealing my information from my social media platform. And I'm like, I don't believe that I have a big enough platform for anybody to need, or feel the need to steal information from my platform. That was the first thing I said to him. But I had a realization that he didn't have, and that is that at very important dates, there is very important pockets, if you will, of information stored from planetary history within the earth. And what you and I do, or what we do as a collective, is tap into those, but we tap into those at certain times, right? So I told him no one is stealing what I said, 6 months ago or whatever. It was like something I wrote a year ago. He was saying, oh, this person is like plagiarizing you what you said a year ago. No, they're not. I don't even know this person. And my stuff doesn't get around enough for someone to even come in and start plagiarizing me, right? So what was really happening is this person felt like they were having a conversation or telepathic connection with Archangel Michael, and in a way they were, because they were tapping into a specific set of knowledge that, Jesus, Buddha, all these people that came before us, all these ascended masters, they learned these really important, incredible lessons. They stored them within this planet, within the Akashic record, so that one day Tina can access this. One day Ron can access this. One day Herman can access this, right? So that was the point of all of it. So it's not plagiarism. So that tells you we are all on one timeline, and we are in different spaces on the timeline energetically. So we tap into different things at different times. Now, the reason why this is so important is if they cannot, and I know they can't, gauge how, we're going to do this and see how this group of people on this part of the timeline is going to react. Because you can bet your butt here that they know about these different groups of awakeness and different stages of awakeness and different stages of tapping into information that is all concurrent on one giant timeline. There are not separate timelines. We are in different spaces on those timelines. Now, yes, someone can decide, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this process. This looks really apocalyptic to me. This really looks biblical to me. And I don't want to be here anymore. So they may create a sickness or a car wreck or whatever, and that will take them off the timeline. But if you've decided to stay here, Earth is ascending, our only choice is ascension, right? So they are aware of the different groups. They are aware of the different sets of information in different groups, and they are then targeting different sets of information depending on what you have been able to tap into, through the Akashic records, through your romantic connections, however you are tapping into things. And yes, if you are in a sacred divine union and you are having a physical experience of that human union in physicality, right? Making love, you will also in that aspect as well connect to this divine information that is stored in the Akashic record. So they are aware of the different groups, how different groups are connecting to this Akashic memory stored within the earth about the current timeline, and what story is going to stick best. What's the best way to get to Tina, okay, for example, and anybody else that shares a frequency with Tina? What's the way to go after that frequency? So they have the information about our frequency because they still have all of that spine technology, of course, at this moment. Okay, so what I'm telling you is we've got one timeline. And yes, we do jump timelines, but we jump timelines. If you start having deja vu a lot, and even deja vu inside of deja vu, that means you personally are taking a timeline jump. Yes, it's possible that your neighbors, that your friends, that your coworkers, that your social media following, that there are other people who don't even have social media followings on this planet that are tapping in, and we are having a collective jump. But that's not putting us on another timeline. It's putting us up in this timeline. And whenever we as a group, in the first energetic wave of information and stored knowledge on this planet, make a jump ahead, it's kind of like a tunnel, or a spiral, or a straw of information and energy. So let's say me and you and 10,000 people take a huge jump on September 3rd, which is what is going to happen. Okay. It's like a straw in the fact that this group of us, this 10,000 group of us, does this big jump up through the straw, so to speak. And when that happens, it's like you have a shake, right? And you've just taken a really big drink of it. So not only does it move you and I and the 10,000 people, 100,000, however many people are on the same part of that frequency timeline that you and I are on, it makes a sucking motion and pulls those other people up further into that spiral of time on the same timeline of expanded consciousness as well. Now, even though they don't have looking glass technology, you can bet your ass that they're aware of all of this, okay? And this is why September 3rd, 23rd, every year becomes more of an amped up predictive programming through movies and social media time than any other time. Remember, our energy, when we catapult further and faster into this new, incredible, amazing timeline, it acts as a straw. When we jump, it makes a suction and pulls other parts and pieces up on that timeline as well. Hello, everyone. And I'm sorry that I'm ignoring you, but, my process for doing this is I initially start out saying hi to people. So if I've had people tell me before, what's the point of even going live if you're not going to interact with people? The point for me in going live, the main point for me in going live is I seem to be some sort of oracle or open channel all the time. But while I'm an open channel or an oracle in my home, when something comes through, I will stop the receptive mode sometimes and jump into the masculine mode of deciphering and all that stuff. So I will pause and write and decipher. And with you, it's a clear channel, it's a clear oracle of the energy of what's happening without me, myself, interrupting the process. And that's why I do it live. Okay. If you're someone that wants to have interaction, you need to show up in the first, 10 minutes of the video when I'm just talking about whatever. Because I try to get on here and talk for 5 or 10 minutes to give people a chance. And I do that for you, but I also do it just as much as I do it for you. I'm also doing it for myself, because there are parts and pieces that you're aware of that I'm not aware of. And what I've noticed is, even if you're commenting on the video, I will be talking about something that you're commenting about, even though I'm not reading your comments. So the other thing about going live is it gives me access to your maybe understanding of what's going on whatever I'm talking about. I'm picking up your thoughts and sometimes answering your questions. I am also able to then tap into your higher self and what your higher self knows about this. So there's a lot of reasons that I go live. If you want that kind of interaction, you kind of have to start at the beginning and show up at the beginning of the video, because once I go into Oracle mode, it is very, very easy for me to be pulled out and back into the third dimension. And I have clearly noticed a long time ago that while I'm sitting here and I can see my face on camera, I am not really in the third dimension. And it happens every time I come on here about 10 minutes into the video. Okay. So that's that. They don't have looking glass technology. If they did, it'd be a smoother transaction. They could say, Tina and this group of 100,000 people, we're going to try this scenario, and this group is going to act to this scenario in a certain way, which tells us that after this scenario, we should go to the next scenario. It also tells them, you know what, it's not having the effect that we wanted. So let's go in another direction. Okay. They use all of this for feedback. Again, even though they don't have looking glass technology, meaning they can look into the nexus point or the significant knot or node or nodule in time within that straw or that tunnel. That's the only way I can describe it. Within that straw, within that tunnel, there are these nodes. There are these very specific dates when they know things are going to happen, and that's what they try to control. Now, since they don't have looking glass technology, they can't predict how we're going to respond, and that's why movies are almost nothing but predictive programming now. Okay, so the predictive programming is all about pulling you out of your energy of balance and creation, right? So their agenda for September 23rd, on a basic level here, their agenda for September 23rd is to pull you out of self-creation. Their agenda for September 23rd is to pull you out of balance. Their agenda for September 23rd is to pull you out of self-trust, to pull you out of collaboration. Their whole agenda for September 3rd is to pull you out of the unification of humanity. Like I said, if we're going to sit in the divine feminine energy and say, blah, 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 I'm not listening, you're missing the importance that there is a nexus time or a node or a yod or a bump in the road, in the straw, in the timeline that they're very, very aware of. And since they don't have looking glass technology, the only way they can then get an outcome is by sending you pictures, images, and words, and having you doing research and not trusting your intuition about what you feel about that date. And then you're sending that photograph, those images, those words back to the hive of humanity, therefore creating them. Okay. And this is the whole point of September 23rd. Okay. So think about what you do when you want to manifest something. Okay. We'll get a vision board, or we'll make it our screensaver. We want to manifest a boat, for instance. You know, we put boats all over the place. We talk about boats constantly. We look at marinas, right? Images. We read things and we look at mental images that we then store in our brain. And then all we have to do once we do that is have an emotion, whether that's sad, happy, angry, whatever. We have an image. We hold the image in the brain, in the mind, and then we give it an emotion. That's all there is to manifestation. There's literally nothing else. We hold the patterns and the pictures and the information in the mind. Whatever they are putting out about September 3rd. And when I say they, I'm talking agendic. Okay, I know there's probably hundreds of thousands of people that are really concerned about this because they've only done the masculine aspect. They've only done the research aspect. And they've gotten, to the point where it's, oh my God, let me see if this person agrees. Or what about, I wonder if the person that I've been following for 10 years is talking about this, or all this other stuff, right? So whatever they are putting out in that predictive programming on Twitter, on whatever. And I know there are hundreds of thousands of people doing it because they've done research and they're concerned. So I'm not saying everyone is doing that, but that's the thing about this collective consciousness, is those who wish to usurp their manifestation and what they wish to usurp and the control of a certain manifestation or a certain outcome, they are the ones putting out the information about this is what September 3rd is, so that you will hold that picture, we will all look at it, we would all send it back to the hive. Again, all we have to do is look at an image and create an emotion about it. And it doesn't matter what kind of emotion you attach to it. It only needs to be emotional. Perfect example, right? Let's say you're not engaged, but you're looking at wedding dresses or looking at wedding venues, or maybe you're even picking out bands, okay? That'd probably be the first place I'd start. So maybe you're doing that and you don't even have a groom, right? But you're manifesting that because you're looking at pictures, you're doing research, and you're conjuring up all these happy feelings like, oh yeah, I can't wait to have this kind of music at my wedding, or I can't wait to have this kind of food. You're literally creating that, okay? So everything that we're learning about manifestation, what we're teaching ourselves right now, and what we're creating and co-creating with each other, remember, I'll go back to this, September 23rd is only scary if we go along and send images back to the hive about predicting programming. The theme is co-creation, balance, trust in self, collaboration, and unification of humanity. So we are only in that masculine energy of research, right? That's what we're doing. Every time you study that, every person that puts more of that out there, this is what's going to happen, this is what they're saying, kind of stuff, right? The more we send images back to the hive to manifest what they want, it is what they want us to actually manifest. Now, the reason that they're throwing stories out every literal 5 seconds, flat earth, donut earth, upside down earth, smiley face earth, there is no earth, all of it, okay? That's an old scenario. I'm just giving you an example, okay, here. Whatever they're throwing out there is they're trying to make the most confusion, okay? They're trying to get the most bang for their buck on confusion. That's why I had started to say, and I know I deleted that last video, we are best served right now in our manifestation ability to keep life simple. I like these kind of relationships. I like this kind of food. It's important for me to take care of myself. It's important for me to honor the earth. And it's important for me at this time to have healthy relationships and beautiful collaborations with other people. I am not telling you not to study anything or look at anything or take any kind of masculine action. That's far from it. What I'm saying is we need to be doing this in a balanced, harmonious way if we actually want justice for this planet. Because if we keep putting that information out on September 23rd and we keep looking at it, the more we look at it, the more we propagate it, the more pictures we send back to the hive, the more we're creating the exact scenario they want, okay? And basically the biggest scenario that they want is a planet full of confused individuals. And you only need to spend 5 or 10 minutes on the highway or standing in line at the grocery store to realize and understand on an empathic level exactly how agitated, frustrated, and confused we are as a general mass, okay? So I suggest the divine feminine that's receiving information, look at that in physical reality, okay? When I get a message, in the divine feminine energy of receiving this message from my higher self, from one of my friends, whoever it is, I'm going to look at the symbology of it. I'm going to talk to other people. Have you been experiencing this, okay? What we don't want is planetary stagnation in either a masculine or feminine polarity. In other words, I'm looking at it, it's not positive, so I'm going to ignore it. Instead of a balanced way of looking at this would be saying, we are in a tube, a spiral of time. There is a very important node or bump or a nexus point that they are trying to manifest and control a very specific outcome for. Now, when you're doing that in a balanced masculine feminine energy and you're saying, okay, here's this date in this spiral of time. It's really super important. So how do I use this time, right? How do I use the next 2 weeks? It's not by ignoring it. It's by being masculine and feminine, saying, here it is. It's in black and white. They're trying to create it. They're trying to pull me into their manifestation. They're trying to pull all of us, into creating this thing. Okay. I know about it. Here it is. I've seen it. It's in my face. Okay. Now, balanced energy shift, okay, and realize that this is a huge jump, and it's a huge jump for everyone, okay? So whether you're in the very, front of the line in the straw, so to speak, or somewhere in the middle or in the back, this node is a huge jump for everyone. But if they can specifically get to a group of people that hold a lot of personal power and inner strength and dictate how they're going to share or how they're going to speak about these timelines, then how these jumps or nexus points in the timeline, if they can put enough information out, predict enough, project enough, in that masculine energy, that's definitely where they are, of trying to throw this out there and literally make anything and everything stick so that it's in your mind and you send a picture back to the hive. It's important for us to know about it. It's important for us to look at it to say, okay, so knowing that, just for an example, what do we do? Well, I'll tell you, from the 21st to the 24th is going to be huge. And while the exact nexus bump, so to speak, is on the 23rd, if you know that this is totally agendic for the manifestation that they wish to see, which is not divine justice, then all we need to do is put pictures in front of our minds, in front of our faces, in our hearts, and focus on those pictures so that that is the message that we are putting in this certain nexus point at this node that is about balance, and this node that is about divine justice. So for example, you could say, here's this date coming up, 21st through the 24th. For example, you could say, just pick any subject that brings whatever brings the most joy or excitement to you, okay? Pick that subject. And then show yourself as many images as you can of whatever it is. For me, like water or sailboats or, anything like that. Beach pictures, Maldives. I'm just totally enthralled and enlivened and fascinated that I could stay in a little grass hut, right? Or these little bamboo huts and dive in the water. So maybe for me, I want to look at diving and water and the huts in the Maldives for those 4 days, because what that's doing is it's bringing in a balance, right? I have the knowledge of what they're trying to do. They're trying to get us to share an image at a nexus point so that we create this thing. But I can put my water pictures in, my diving pictures in, my laughing on the beach pictures in. And so what that is going to do, obviously, the more of us that are looking at any, whatever positive, fascinating thing we can, so we are filling ourselves with the pictures that we're sending back to the collective consciousness. Water, calm, tranquility, honeymoon, whatever it is, okay? Just pick something that makes you joyful. Again, if we're using our divine masculine, divine feminine energy, it would be to look at this date and say, I know what the plan is. The plan is for them, and I'm not saying that they do have a plan outside this. There are those things on that date that they are also physically trying to create, but they don't have the power that we do anymore, okay? Hence the inundation on every social media platform and the predictive programming in movies for however long this has been going on. If we use our balanced masculine and feminine energy, this is their plan. This is what they want to do. This is how powerful we are, that we can create this. Okay, so what am I going to look at from September 21st to 24th? What am I going to inundate myself with? Happy, loving, calm thoughts about whatever it is that brings unification to the planet, whatever it is that brings trust in myself and others to this planet, whatever it is that brings in collaboration and unification as a humanity to this planet. Now, we're all going to love different things and be fascinated by different things, so it doesn't matter what you choose. Again, this shows you, because I want to say this again because it just keeps coming up with there's a big chunk of divine feminine on this planet saying, nah, 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 I'm not going to listen to your negative agenda and not give it any energy, okay? But that is actually bypassing it. So partially it is correct, but then you know that they're trying to do something. You know they're trying to send X amount of million pictures back to the hive mind to create something. So if you're just going to cover your eyes, cover your ears and ignore it and disengage from it, you're not doing anything to help the situation. That's why I say just consider inundating yourself with people, images, food, everything that gives a chart a positive catalytic amplification to this nodal point that they are working so hard to. So as a divine feminine, you can say, I've been receiving this and this and this. As a divine masculine, you can say, wow, they're putting all this negative stuff about this date. Don't ignore it. Realize the importance of this date and focus your energy on positivity so that we can make this date about humanitarian justice and humanitarian balance and clarity and joy. And that is the reason for all the negative agenda. This is really important for us to know this. So, yes. James said they're probably indexing abilities aren't what they used to be. Yes. And we are so much more powerful than them. And please remind yourself that this is a little group of people, right? With a lot of technology, right? It's like the movie The Ants with the grasshoppers. You know, I think the movie was called Ants. We are incredibly powerful. So if there's any point in you knowing about this quote scary date that they're throwing out there, is how powerful you are and how susceptible you are to creating what it is they're trying to get you to create. And instead of closing your eyes or closing your ears and disengaging and totally ignoring it, saying, oh, this is an important date. How can I treat myself? Awesome. Let that be a really positive 4 or 5 days. I mean, I try to make life as positive on a daily basis as possible, but really a concentration on positivity, positive relationships, positive food, positive interactions, and positive cooperation for that span, okay? Because that's what they don't want you to do, and that's what they don't want you to know. Send back calm, soothing, loving images and thoughts about yourself, your life, your relationships, co-creation, and this planet's consciousness. And this date is going to be huge. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. I could not get my computer to work. And you know I don't read comments as I go. So I will look at your comments tomorrow. Much love. And thank you for your participation in Planet Earth at this time. Bye.